So hi, welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
I'm Damon from Virtue. How you
and
guys doing?
we have some questions to say about the upcoming album Omen. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
It's been fantastic so far, man. I mean, the songs that we've put out, it seems like people really gravitate and vibe with those, and then being able to actually play them on tour for the first time and see just kind of how, not necessarily even just with us, but like how people are reacting with all different kinds of music. And it's again a kind of a privilege and a pleasure to be involved in some of the names that get thrown out there. So
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Album's a fucking ripper. Been in love with the band since the single that we got to chat about last year. So I'm stoked that the full length is finally here.
Yes.
yeah, we all are. It's you know. We understand that nowadays people they want more singles, they want, to focus it more like that. But sometimes that old school stuff creeps in where you still want to be able to listen to a record front to back to really understand what the artist or whoever created it wants you to kind of hear. So
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Album is immaculate. I want to say it's flawless, but I feel like that's coming on too strong. But I fucking love it. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that.
hey, I'll take anything we can. So
Hell yeah.
Perfect. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
the title is the best way I can describe it is kind of like taking what you know now through all of like the trials and tribulations, all the mistakes, everything else that's happened to get you to this point. But if you had that kind of figurative crossroad where you could go back to a younger version of yourself and impart that same wisdom, would you make the same decision?
Mhm.
Or is it one of those where everyone has their own kind of path in life? It's not linear. Sometimes there are gonna be potholes, there's gonna be roadblocks, anything else, and you need those to actually formulate and figure out what your calling is or what your purpose is.
Hmm.
So that's where the name Omen, because it's kind of like a warning if in any case, and it's like, should we listen to that, or is it one of those where you just have to kind of accept what's in front of you
Mhm.
and just push forward a day at a time? So
Hell yeah.
Huh.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
I can. We got into a room and we wrote some awesome songs. But
Nice.
to give it a longer version, no, like
There you go.
similar to like What Defines You, this was also broken up over several different like writing sessions. But in this case, it was, and it's weird to say it like a complete team effort because in the past it's like I've came with whole ideas. Mike, Tyler, kind of in the same boat where like we can all write separately from each other. But in this case, I remember specifically too. It's like when before we went and did Center, I had some people I sent some stuff out to that were like, "This ain't it," and I'm like, it's frustrating to hear that what you're working on isn't what you think it is, or like it hasn't gotten to that next point.
Mm.
But not having the yes people kind of made us go outside of our box, realize we have a lot of talented friends, and from there it's like just show up to the studio sessions literally with a guitar, laptop, pen and paper, and we just converse. We just see what's going on in the world, what's going on with each other, and by that point we'll either start mapping out like rough instrumentals, it could be vocals, come up with a chorus, and we just wrap an entire song around it. It's like everything has kind of went, I won't say backwards in a way, because it definitely feels like that first time when you get into a room and it's like you're 16, 17, starting your first band,
Yeah.
and everybody's got ideas. Everybody is more serious about it instead of and actually practicing, instead of getting together and just hanging out like we would do in the past.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been great though, very organic
All
in that
right.
sense.
Interested in kind of like the timeline here, because the Sinner EP that came out last year, those songs are on the album. So like, when did the album kind of start coming together, and when did it kind of wrap up?
It started coming together. Honestly, Sinner was the first part of that. So we wrote that song, I want to say in, ooh, I got to go back through my timeline. I think it was like March or April of 2021.
Okay.
So we were like in the heart of, COVID, bands not really being able to do much, but that was the first song that everyone kind of universally agreed, like, hey, this is the direction that we're going to go in, which, as you can see, is a very broad direction. But
Yeah.
I would say that was more of the start. And then the last song that we wrote for the record was actually Sober, and we just put that out.
Mhm.
And it was one of those, it felt like the right bookmark, the right bookend to, hey, I think we've fully kind of actualized the sound that we want, the direction that we want to go, the strengths that have worked, from releasing Sinner
Mhm.
and seeing how people gravitate toward it. And it's like, you'd almost be foolish not to have more stuff kind of similar to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's like you Sinner and Sober would be the start and end to that process.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And then because you mentioned you didn't kind of have those yes men in your camp anymore with your music, were you a little anxious with kind of going into the studio because you didn't really know, I guess, where to start because you didn't want to go back to that kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And I would even say it's less like anxiety, more so excitement, because at that specific time too, it's like all of us were spending a lot more time apart and not really, I won't say not talking to each other, but it's just everybody had a lot going on.
Yeah.
So that when we finally did get back together in the room, it's, A, you have a multitude of things to pull from. But by this point, we're looking around and it's like no one really has an idea of what's going on. But instead of like freaking out, it's like, all right, kind of what I said before, just take it a day at a time. Just go in there, be relaxed, be open-minded. If you hear something that you like, speak up. If you hear something you don't like, say that too, so we can move on. And it's honestly given us some of the best results. Like, I'm not gonna say it's been easy all the time doing it that way, but it feels like everyone is 100% into that process because nobody's voice is accidentally shut out. Nobody, goes in there thinking, oh yeah, this, song is doing great, but I literally did nothing. So I just got an A on the group project. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, everyone's hands are in it. Everyone's had no's, everyone's had yeses. And just, again, we've always kind of had the benefit of not having those kind of people. It's just a matter of sometimes there can be ones with different agendas where it's like, no, for this reason. But then there's also, you can get too creative or you get too crazy where it doesn't really land or have a mark. And I feel like some of our older music, because we were figuring it out, was a part of that experiment, but now we didn't need to quote unquote do some of those anymore. So
Absolutely.
Huh. Perfect. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Which one took the longest to write? See, that's the weird one, because again, all of the songs that made it didn't take long for them to come together. I would say probably Floating might be the one that from start to finish, it took the longest. Not even because like the music wasn't there, it's just we were trying to figure out how to make it like as special as it could have been. And if you haven't already noticed, there's a feature on that one and no other song on the record. So that was one of those where it's like, hey, we figured out that we needed somebody else in there. And, he was the right person for the job. Thankfully, he said yes. And I think it's one of those, because it's the only feature on the album, it makes that song infinitely more special.
Absolutely.
And you picked an awesome vocalist to make a song that much more powerful. Or it's announced, right? Like who's on the song?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Rory from Dayseeker.
Yeah, Rory's fucking voice is incredible. So he works perfect on that song. But which one is your personal favorite?
Ooh. I'll probably have to pick two of them because we do have like the lighter sound and then we have our heavier moments too. The title track is probably one of my favorite songs we've ever written. It's just weird. It's modern, but it I don't know. To me, it doesn't sound like again, kind of like what Sinner was for us. Like that song doesn't sound like anything we've ever done before. And that's one of the ones I'm excited to start playing here pretty soon. So yeah, I would say that, and then Sinner is still one of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener, close big closer, just shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Shuffle it around really, because there's a few different ways of like how we wanted to tell the story, and there is a narrative that is linked through all the lyrics. So it's kind of like figuring out, okay, what chapter does this make sense being? It's like, you'll see the movies where you'll start off and it's at the end, but they're going to bring you through the whole thing up until you get to that point.
Yeah.
Or it can be a little more linear where it's like an actual start finish. In this case, it's going to be a little morbid, so I apologize for this one, but this reads from the perspective of someone that's kind of what I was saying before about knowing what you know now and then imparting it on a younger version of yourself. Whoever wrote this kind of manifest could not get out of their own way. They weren't able to actualize their talents or, the thing that they were meant to do. So the only thing that they did do, which could have also been their purpose, is to leave behind a set of instructions for the next person to pick up. It details the story. It details everything that went wrong and actually also went right in their lives, but they weren't able to fully impart that on somebody themselves. So in this case, it's like, what makes the most sense to tell that narrative? And when you finally leave on the last song, it's like, okay, what am I going to do with this now? Like, am I going to wind up like this narrative, or am I going to wind up, where I take control of something and not have to potentially leave something like this behind?
Yeah.
Instead, I can inspire and be a force in a different way.
Okay.
Absolutely. How does a narrative like that come into play? Like, does someone come to the table and say, hey, I want to write about this. I want this to be the story of the album. Or do you guys link the songs together with that narrative in mind?
It kind of started taking its own life when we noticed that a lot of the songs, I won't say started having the same feeling or same energy, but at that point we were all sitting together having a conversation, and one of our guys, Evan, he was looking at, he's like, hey, I know this, like these lyrics sound great, or at this point these sounds awesome, but you need a better story. You need to go deeper. And it's like, okay, well, how do we do that? And it's a matter of diving into everyone's past, into topics and things that are uncomfortable that we maybe haven't shared before. Like for myself, it was definitely an issue of like recovery, sobriety, of all that comes along with that. It's not just quitting something, just the substance. It is the stigma that comes along with it. It is the legal ramifications. It is losing friends, family, people that you thought are your close inner circle, but in reality, they either just enabled you or they only want you around for this one thing. And part of this story kind of mirrors the things that I didn't want to talk about. I wanted to leave that in the past and kind of have like my own new identity until it got to a point where it's like, well, my story is not necessarily unique, but it is one where, like I was detailing before, it's like I can stay quiet with the platform that I have, the platform that you guys give us, or I can look at myself and go, okay, you know what? You made your mistakes. You've paid for them 10 times over. Now, maybe a different way to do it is to tell that story so that the same person that might be in my shoes from 15 years ago, from, when I was a younger kid, or that person that is about to be in that situation, maybe we can kind of cut that off at the pass. And you don't have to go through some of the negative things. You can skip that. You can, I don't know, take a piece of friendly advice from somebody that you may not know, but something that you might connect with.
Absolutely.
So like, were you able to kind of get over like any sort of anxiety or like mental roadblock of like sharing your story, and like, or like, are you is the song what you use to kind of like, say it, but kind of hide, like, like hide behind something, or are you very okay with just like being like, this is my story, and
No, I'm okay with talking about everything now. I've gotten a lot better with it. And the music, again, it's just a vessel. It's a tool at this point because the moment and if someone connects with it, it shouldn't stop there. I don't think. When we've toured and traveled, been able to actually speak to people, it's like they come up and they're like, hey, thank you for this, or this means this much to me. And it's like, that's the essence right there of like kind of why we do what we do. It's like artists that I got that feeling from when I was going through whatever. It could have been the best time of my life to, the worst times, but it's like you've had that moment and you've been able to articulate that to that person or kind of see it play out in real time. And in some ways, it's like that's kind of more of the reward of not only am I, lifting a burden off myself, but the audience is also helping me do that. So it's like if I can give them something, but they give me something in return, that's the best feeling. It's not just me going out of my way or doing this for me. It takes two. It takes both for all of this to actually work itself out.
That makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Perfectly put. Perfectly put. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they play in the car with friends, dark with headphones on? Should they work out to it? What do you personally recommend?
Definitely work out to it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yep. Just honestly, it's however you want to digest it. I do feel like it is one of those where it is also formatted to pick a day, put your headphones in. If you got an hour, whatever you're gonna do, and just let it play from front to back so that you can kind of see, like, I don't know, see what we see what we're intending to tell, because it is a lot of like single style songs, but I think we did a great job in formatting it to where it's like you don't get too much of one thing at any point in time. It's going to tell a nice fluid story. It's going to give you the breaks when you need it. It's heavy enough on its face to where, if somebody does want to just turn it on and, crank up Hypocrite or Anxiety or any of the other songs like that on there, you absolutely can. But, it's kind of like, I look at it almost kind of like Sleep Token in a way where, like, when I listen to their records, I never really skip around. I just start at the top and let it go.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And thank you for mentioning Anxiety, because that was my personal favorite.
So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
No more, no less. Vulnerable, deep, and hopeful.
Nice. I love that.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. So are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Ooh. Let's see. Yeah, one of them was, a positive one.
Mhm.
I will say was the last session we wrote Cut Me Open and Sober in the same thing.
Mm.
For whatever reason, like Cut Me Open took us probably 3 days to write. And which for us it's short, but it feels long given like kind of how everything's been going.
Mhm.
And honestly, that song was a little frustrating because like we couldn't figure out the right vibe for it, because it does have it's got synthwave, it's got like this heavy chorus instead of like a strumming chorus. For whatever reason, we couldn't get the magic elixir just right on that one, so we actually abandoned it for a day. But in that process, we started working on Sober, and it was just a matter of kind of going back to how we made Sinner. It's like we just popped up some plugins, we were just talking, having fun. We got some dinner. It might have been like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and we were supposed to end at 9, but we got onto a roll, and by midnight, we had the full song.
Oh.
Nice. Okay.
So by the time we woke up the next day, we could look at Cut Me Open and go, we were trying too hard. We were that thing that, saying we were trying to force things into this, or this needs to be, it's like, nah, just look at it for what it is. And then from there, probably took about another hour, did some rearrangement, rewrote a couple of parts. And I think we wound up with two of the best songs that are on the album.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah. So for the last couple of questions, we're gonna shift completely away from music. So if you could be one animal for the rest of your life, what animal would you be and why?
Oh. Well, I'm a cat owner,
Okay.
so I might just be one of my fat orange cats that lays around and gets rubbed all
They are
day.
good,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And comes and bothers me for food.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love cats. I used to like not like cats actually, but for whatever reason, all my friends just fucking have cats now. So I have to love them.
You're a
so.
cat person. I'm still not.
No, I'm a dog
Oh,
person
no.
through and through. But I love cats.
I
I have a
don't
very
know.
soft spot for cats now. They're so
Dogs
they're
and
so fucking
dogs and
cute.
cats can coexist, just so
They
you
can.
know.
Hey, this
I
is
know.
true. This is true. My not my dog though. She does not like she does not like any other dogs though. So it's not just cats. So we're good. We're good. So if
Does
you
your
have
dog like anybody else?
just us, actually, just us.
Jealous
So-
dog. Jealous dog.
Maybe
Protective.
she has a couple problems.
Yeah.
Protect. We'll say protective.
Yeah.
That's a kinder word.
There you go.
Exactly. So if you could have lunch with any celebrity or artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh.
Mhm.
Dang, that's a hard one too. Probably pick two of them.
Okay.
One would be Chester from Linkin Park,
Mhm.
just because that's one of those bands that, like, without Hybrid Theory or Meteora, it's like this whole thing,
Mhm.
it doesn't exist. And I just would want to be into the mindset of like they were, they've been grinding it out for a while, but then they hit this. It's almost kind of like a superstardom that I don't think you can have in this day and age. So wanting to pick someone's brain on that, and then the other one was unfortunately also dead, but probably like a Michael Jackson, somebody that's a real deal, like just kind of enigmatic figure,
Absolutely.
somebody that, unfortunately, as the years have gone by, his musical legacy is still there, but people still like to bring up old. So it's like
Yep.
wanting to get into the mind of that and see, what's really happening, what's really going on here.
You gotta hear
Absolutely.
it straight from him.
Yeah.
hmm
And for this last question, boom, you're on Desert Island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and what are you bringing?
One movie, one album, one person. Training Day is the movie.
Okay.
Oh, I love Training Day. That's a
Yeah.
really fucking good one. Yeah.
Album, I'll go Artist in the Ambulance from Thrice.
Okay.
Person, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna bring another person. I'm about to just boot them off.
You can bring
Yeah.
you can bring one of your
Yeah,
cats.
bring one of your cats.
All right, cool. I'll bring. His name is Oliver, so I'll just bring him.
Nice.
Hell
He can
yeah,
run around.
Oliver.
All right.
That's fucking awesome.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Omen, September 29th via A Rising Empire. We got cool pre-orders up if you like vinyl. Got European and American variants that are different from one another. Go see what you like, pick something up, stream it everywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that. And we know where I exist everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll be on tour in 2 weeks with Being as an Ocean
Oh, damn.
in Europe and the UK again. So go to our website, buy tickets for that. Come hang out with us, give us high fives, and scream anxiety in my face so
Hell yeah.
that I get anxious.
All right. Well, thank you for sound. It's been Damon from A Virtue, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.